You know it. All right, y'all. Well, I'm excited to see everyone here today. Let me pull up the manual real quick. Mireya and Lucia, I saw the changes that y'all already started to make, and it feels so nice to have some, como se dice, clarity visually as we look at the retreat. I'll share my screen for this first part, and we'll go through just the main big pieces. Oh, excuse me, y'all. All right. So this is the retreat manual. You'll see one big shift from the previous retreats, Luisa, is that on Tuesday we do start earlier. We talked, Brian and I talked about the transportation pieces. Mireya had some questions about our start time. Oh, and actually, Mireya, did you change that? You changed it.
I
Mhm.
I started changing it to 9. Was I not supposed to?
No, because we mapped out the actual time and it's going to be consolidated transportation. So one quick update. There are 7 people getting picked up from Durham, 2 people from Hillsborough. So they're going to consolidate transportation into one van. Hillsborough kids will be picked up at 7:45, and then folks from Durham will get picked up after, and that will be at, let me see the times actually that I just said, Danielle. That will be I think at 8:25, considering all the time. Long story short, by the time they make it to Curie Academy, it'll be 9:02. Um, so we do need some time for some flexibility in the morning to make sure that they're able to arrive on time. Walk me through the change though, because are you including the eating into the 9 a.m. start time? Or are you expecting that we're starting programming at 9 a.m.?
I was no, breakfast I had put like with arrival.
Oh, I see up here. Yeah, because we'll likely have those kids coming at 9:02. So we do need that time in the morning.
Okay. So we will change that.
Yeah. And I think 15 minutes is fine, flexibility. Like 9:15 we can start, I
And that
believe.
is for every day?
Ideally, yeah, for every day.
Okay, okay, okay. Got
Yeah.
it.
Thanks
All
for
right.
that. Um, so that's the one update. They'll come in, get breakfast. We'll have some students, 9 students who will be in transportation from Curie Academy. We'll have the remainder of the students will be driving themselves or will be getting dropped off. So we do start as a team arrival at 8 a.m. Folks will start arriving as early as 8:30 for folks who are driving themselves, and we will be providing breakfast every day. We're doing Bojangles again this year, so folks will have the option of, I think we've done like chicken in the past, we've done sausage, and I'm gonna propose that we have something like bacon, egg, and cheese to add some variety. So it'll be some good food. Curie Academy is cooking all meals on site, so nothing has changed in terms of food for every day. We are going to be the only other camp at Curie Academy. Dream is going to be done already, so we're going to be the only folks on site. Um, so while we have access to the entire second floor, we really can use any of their other spaces as needed as well. So just something to take into account. The rest of the days are flow as is. A couple of other logistics notes is that on Thursday, the 25th, we'll have a outside guest, Coastal Carolina, not Coastal, I keep calling it Coastal Carolina, that's a college, Coastal Credit Union. Um, they will be there to talk about financial readiness and financial literacy from the sense of like how we can use that as a tool for our own empowerment. So really trying to stick through the theme of our power. So we'll have them there. And then may have some additional team members joining us for the Yo Soy project presentations on Friday. But outside of that, I don't anticipate that we'll have any other guests. Curie Academy is going to be getting us snacks. We are dropping off materials tomorrow to make sure that we have everything. All the bags are already complete. Maria put those together. So when we get there on Tuesday morning, it'll be just a matter of setting up the space that we want to use. And we do have access to at least 4 classrooms, so there will be a lot of space to move around as y'all think about where we're facilitating sessions, Mireya and Lucia, that's something to think about, because we do have access to a lot of different spaces. I think that's it on the biggest of levels, highest of levels. Brian, welcome. I just did a little logistics overview, highlighted some the transportation pieces, and talked about some of the guests that we were gonna have throughout the week. But yeah, any questions from the team on logistics?
Um, I know we looked at the classrooms, but I was barely in there. How
Mm-hmm.
many desks are in the classroom?
Yeah, I asked Danielle. So their average classroom size is 20. And there's one classroom, there's a corner classroom. I had the same reaction, Mira. Yeah, I was like, oh Lord, it's about to be tight, warm in here. There's one corner classroom that is huge and that I think is going to be our main space. That one also has, I believe, Zoom capabilities. So if we ever needed to record a session or wanted to leverage that for
Oh,
like review or whatever. But yeah, so we'll have to restructure rooms
okay.
because there are smaller.
And is that gonna happen before Tuesday, or we would do that Tuesday in the morning?
Yeah, Brian and I can set it up or see what needs to be like set up. We're really doing a material drop off. I don't know that I'm trying to think of what else might be needed to be set up. Flags will be the only other thing that I think we can do. Also Tuesday morning, I can bring those and bring them steamed. So that we literally just have to hang them up. So we'll make sure that there's enough desks in there when we leave on Friday so that on Tuesday, all we have to do is just organize it how we might want to have it for that day. But we'll try to keep the stuff as, ready to go for Tuesday morning.
Hmm. Yeah. We definitely need a spacious split classroom, especially so that Eric can move around easily.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Any other questions? Mhm. Cool. Brian, are you thinking or coming off me? And if there's anything else logistics connected that you want to add, but we can continue to address questions as y'all go through the curriculum. Anything else that you would add, Brian?
Um, I'm all good. Um, you were sending transportation stuff to Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to email them like potential food requests, for like, Thursday and Friday at least. Because I know they have their own menu. Um, but yeah, just some like maybe some cultural stuff would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll have requests, please let me know before I message them.
Hmm. I see some notes on attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I'm eating, but three kids came up to me, testing me at like the welcome brunch. Um, and they're the older kids. I know. Cassandra, Jose Handy, and then Luis. Um, all have like responsibilities outside that like are affecting them. And I told them to email me, but I think there needs to be a follow-up. For Luis, I think it's simply just like you have to take a step away to have a team call with a Mexican. So it'll probably have him like occupied for like an hour on Thursday. Cassandra has an internship thing that's like, I don't know if it's like I know she named it was like a 1 day thing. Um, so it didn't really cause much trouble. But Jose Handy has internship responsibilities with the Josh Stein campaign. Um, like each day of the retreat. So that like is severely impacting it. And we talked about her sending like our letter of support to her boss. I just haven't had any like response. But it's all fellowship like follow up that's happening today.
Mm-hmm. Karma,
What she say?
her and her mom came up to me during that the Saturday event, and she said that she has a test on Tuesday morning,
Oh,
but that she would join after that.
gotcha. Mhm.
Also add transportation details in here for the good of the group. The other pieces, two things before I forget, is that Thursday we'll have headshots. Alberto will be here, and then Thursday and Friday we'll have
Staff for guests.
no, I forgot the young man's name. The videographer will be here again. So we'll be getting some content captured on Thursday and Friday with our youth.
The young man.
Young man's name.
Wait, what man?
Hey, Jason? Is it Jason, Brian?
Josh, Jordan, Joshua.
Y'all are so bad. I love it.
Mm,
I'll
Okay,
find the information and I'll put
you're
it
gonna
in.
be there like all day, or is it just
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, similar to statewide. Will be done at 4 though, because we don't have any programming after that. So yeah, like 9 to 4. Yeah, thank you.
And this is videographer?
Yeah.
Video.
I'll put those details in there. I'll drop.
His name is Jordan.
Ah, nice.
Jordan the videographer.
We'll get his last name eventually. Oh, but Kiara, have you already named staff to Yo Soy presentations, I think?
Yeah, on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be recording them. Some folks have already confirmed they can't attend, but we have a couple of maybes. So
Gotcha. What
But no one-
exactly?
Has anybody confirmed like any stuff?
not that I know of, or not anyone that's confirmed with me.
Oh, okay.
I know the no's more than I know the yeses.
So my question for that is, are they just trying to identify Semilla storytellers for the summit? Oh, I mean, okay, that's what I assumed. And I wanted to say, like, do they really need to be there? I think it's nice for them to be there, but I feel like we've identified storytellers already.
Mhm.
So if no one can go, it's no like
Yeah,
hard feelings.
yeah,
Mhm.
agreed. And the other part of it is getting folks also being present in these like moments of impact with programming.
Mhm.
That is definitely multi-layered. But to your point, Brian, we recorded them too, and we've been able to tap folks. So it is not a big deal if folks can't come.
Mhm.
Yay.
I think that's it, y'all.
Let me make a task here for myself to update the agenda. Update. Cool. All right, then I guess we'll jump in. The daily agendas I don't think anyone has touched those. And honestly, I'm glad we haven't, because y'all, we are struggling with these times.
Really?
There were like so many little things that weren't adding up as I kept every time I would look at it, I'm like, how am I missed? Like, is it me? How did we start? It's been funny every time I notice it. And I thought we were finally good, but I'll update this one more time. And I think then daily agendas could be mapped out as necessary. But yeah, so we're mainly going to be looking at presentations, and lesson plans are linked as well. Yeah, so I think we'll jump right in. Let me open slides for day one. share my screen. Day one, quick overview. We do our usual El Círculo check-in moment. We're trying some different things out. Instead of doing a human map, we are doing like little interactive grouping activities. We have nuestro propósito for that day, the fellowship story. We'll do community norms, and we will start nuestra jornada. As we can see here, I added a little slide to remind us about explaining the affirmation bags, but also the gift bags that they're receiving, just to make sure. I still can't believe. I think this has happened multiple times where people just sit with their bag or their box and just like so patient. I left these the same because I think they are the same. And so we'll have that. We'll have a grounding moment, and we have the agenda, a reminder about when they'll be posted, which actually, do we have a date for this?
Hmm.
So
We have
next
been
week?
giving the range of next week, so you don't expect it on a certain time or day. But do like the week after from Tuesday to Friday. Or do you want me to take that actually?
July
29th.
30th. You got it.
Do we say July 30th?
Yeah, because that'll be the Tuesday.
Cool.
Mhm.
We'll have our offerings for the day, and then Quienes Somos is that section where we will be doing different activities with them. So I'll actually pull the lesson plan because I don't have any slides for that. I think what we'll be doing, I know, I'm like, we need to put in more youth photos in the mix. So I added this one from
Mhm.
last. It looks so cute. It made me miss them. I'm like, "Wait, I have not seen them." Um, so no slides for this because we'll be moving around. Um, there's like that big like common area in the where we're gonna be at. So I think going into that area would be a good way to just have more space. It looked, I don't know why I feel like I remember it looked a little like not put together. I don't know if there was extra stuff there on Saturday. So maybe just like making sure maybe they already cleaned if there were things to be removed, but um making room. It did feel chaotic. I was a little surprised. I was like, wait, what's going on, Carrie Academy? Um, right outside of the classrooms. Oh, they were cleaning. That makes sense. So I think I'll update some of this as well. There's a lot of we can play around with the time we end up having, basically, because a lot of this depends on how many questions we ask, how many rounds we do, things like that. So I think that would allow us to stay flexible because I feel like the morning of day one is always like a lot of little things, you know? And so just to run over some of the things we can pick from, there's like speed framing where it's just conversational. Um, and there's some questions here. Please feel free to drop more questions that you want. I started off with just like their summer, then where they live or go to school and what it's like. A little random, if your house was being invaded by aliens, what three objects would you try to save? If you swap lives with a character, TV show, person, who would it be? And then like why the Latinx Ed Fellowship? Um, Brian, I feel like you always have like fun random questions, so feel free to drop any. Yeah, I'm glad we're starting off with just like let's chat and see what happens. I definitely want to remind staff and including myself, right, to like jump into these activities, be part of those with them, because it's fun and we get to learn with them and they get to learn about us too. So yeah, it depends on how many rounds. I had planned for 30 minutes for the 1 hour time slot, but we could, we can see. And then the next ones are more of like the movement ones. There are two options. We could pick one or the other or do a little of both. One is where they have to get into groups based on a category. For example, cultural roots, high school versus college, maybe career interest, depending on, I don't know how that'll go because we have a lot of young people too, but it's there as an option. Maybe pets, like how many people have pets, what kind of pets, favorite music genre. So that means they have to like find the people that match their response to the category. And then similar to like human map, we kind of go group by group, like what group are you, and like answer based on the category. We are rap. We love rap. That's our genre. Blah blah blah. And then the like lineup ones is actually like a silent activity. So get in a line in a certain order. So like birth month or birthday, number of siblings, just like their name from A to Z and age. So all these should be, especially the last one, are like pretty fast, but it allows us to get to know them and they get to know each other, where they fall on some of these things. And so those are the activities that are available for the quienes somos. Let me know if I captured some of the ideas that were shared in the slides. I didn't know if we would still, if we would like even share this here or later or at all. So it's currently hidden, but definitely it's there in case we want to share anything about in general how many people are in each pathway. We've talked about the pathways at each retreat, which I think it's important to just, they might have read about it, but making sure people understand, especially the youth, of like what we mean by pathway. Then we have a break and wait, I'll pause right here, especially because this one is like new. Any thoughts, recommendations? All right. We go into the story about the fellowship. Kira, I think you had been trying to think about like if there are any changes that would need to be made.
I do have
Especially,
one. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I just had a thought about the last session.
Oh yeah.
But one quick question to make sure that I'm following. Are you, with the activities that you're pulling, what are you proposing? That it's a combination, or this is really just pulling ideas and then Tanya and Brian essentially figure out that format of that activity? I'm just curious about the, I guess, next steps with that one.
It was an hour.
Mhm.
I think for the hour I had presented all of this for that time, right? Um, the number of questions or the number of categories for the things is kind of up to like in the moment and the time. So I do think that we can try these things. It's kind of like the first one is just moving in a circle, and then after that, then they share more about each other, like certain details, I guess, certain identities in some ways, that require some movement and chatting or not chatting, so it's more of community building.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. I think I initially thought it was going to be ¿cómo se dice? One format for the whole time, but I liked the split of different activities. I missed that part.
Yeah. Yeah, because with the 1 hour, I was like, the first 30 minutes could just be like in the speed friending. And then after that, they can get a little more interactive, more playfulness, you know? For the story of the fellowship, these slides are the same. Kira, I know you have mentioned like I think in general you've been thinking about now that we've done it a couple times, what is coming up as we think about continuing to strengthen the session. I do know that in this, you've usually had an hour, I believe, and for our youth, we have a 50 minutes, yeah, a 50-minute time slot. So just thinking about that. Um, and the only one place where I was thinking about maybe just revisiting is, I don't know if maybe we should highlight more youth, just because of the space we're in, potentially. I think it's still nice to include adults, but just thinking about the age group we're with.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have some feedback from Elaine too. Like even this one, I think we'll cut down to one example rather than 3 different examples.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, meanwhile, Brian, you talk about 2 or 4 more. I'm like 2 people, period. Yeah, so I do think there's some remixing. I actually want to go back. Brian, I'm thinking about what we did with elements, and there was just a lot more interaction in that one, and just how we can do that in person with more participation. So I'll share some proposals, but I think Brian and I, if we can connect tomorrow, Brian, after we drop off the materials to talk about this one, we can share a proposal on the
What
the
is this?
yeah, I think that was a typo, or not a typo, a what's they say? Accidental like butt typing. Because I remember this happening and I was like, what was this? But
Oh, it's supposed to just say Esperanza. I was
yeah.
like, dang, we don't have Esperanza.
Right. No, there is definitely Esperanza.
Oh.
There was
Yeah.
there was something else that you said, Mireya. Okay. Oh, the other times it was an hour, but we also shared data about the fellowship, and now we're doing that section beforehand. So I think it actually might be too much time. So that way we can make it more interactive, but I think 15 minutes will still be good.
Yeah. This slide, I was looking at it and just thinking about, I don't know if it feels too formal for youth or like just making sense of it is the other slide that I was like, just as I was looking through to thinking about our youth.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't get too caught up on these slides because I agree I would not share the theory of impact in this way. I wonder if there's a way for them to see themselves in this theory of impact, right? Like that's the about it. Like, how do they see themselves in this story? How do they see themselves in this value so that they can connect it to their role?
Mhm.
But yeah, that's an important.
I agree. If we frame it as like a if then statement, I think like and just that, like if we do this for Latina leaders, then this will happen.
Mhm.
Because they should already be familiar with that because of like science classes. With because that's hypothesis language.
Okay.
I was
Um,
almost a middle school science teacher.
oh, you would have been such a cool science teacher. That's a good subject for
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Um, and then lunch. And then after that, oh wait, I think I'm going to remove this. I had questions about it.
I'm
I don't know
dead.
if we're doing a group photo. This is from a previous presentation, but um,
I don't know about unless you want like a before and after of like before they really know each other and then after.
I know we didn't really do that with statewide, so I would just keep it for when Alberto's there. After lunch, we'll go into nuestro compromiso. I don't know. We haven't had a name for this one because we haven't had it done in this way. I don't know. But because we're not having casas, we're just gonna have a session where we talk about um community norms. And I did do a little lesson plan for that. Um,
Oh,
I don't think we've talked about like what are community norms, and so I did include like a definition of that. And so I talk about that and make a moment of reflection of like, what do you need to show up as your most authentic self, just like an individual, after we talk about radical accountability and why we're gonna do community norms, some self-reflection to then go into small groups, which is what we did at statewide. And in the small groups, each small group will be coming up with 2 norms they'll propose to the group. And then we come back and each group will have a person to share the norms they're proposing and why. And that's how we'll come up with the norms. I did go ahead for this group, small groups, I randomized it. I didn't feel like it needed to be um in a specific like age group or things like that. And so they'll be randomized, and I went ahead and put people in groups. Yeah, it is random.
You literally asked that question as she said it's randomized, Brian.
yeah. I didn't realize I was unmuted. I could just ask. I just started reading the guide names, and I'm like, wait, do I have all of them? But no.
No. Oh wait, there is 3. I mean, we can definitely, I just put the names in a website and then I put them in here, but we can definitely move people around.
Yeah. I mean, we don't gotta. We don't gotta. I don't know if y'all wanted to do like a all men's group again. It was cool when we were like virtual. I forgot if we tried to do anything in person like that.
In one of our other groups for day 2, I do have them by age, but
Mm-hmm.
currently I don't think we have any like moments where we do like an all like met boys group.
Gotcha.
Their ideas definitely share. Or maybe they just end up sitting together at lunch like they did in statewide.
Oh wait, yeah. Yeah.
One question, and I think this is something that, and I see you have Lucia and I on that session, so I can spend some time thinking about this and update the lesson plan. But one added like step that I would like for us to explore around community norms, it's like, yes, how do we set up, right, this space so that we can show up as ourselves? And what happens when we need to hold each other accountable? So like really exploring that second part of it. What does it look like to hold each other accountable? How do we want to be held accountable? How do you want to hold other people accountable? But just to, I think part of the community norms that I sometimes wonder if we can strengthen is that piece, right? Of like, and I think we see how that moves into action with like statewide when we talked about the step up, step down, or pipe up, pipe down. A lot of folks were holding other people accountable, right? Can we have a conversation about what that accountability can look like in practice? So I can spend some time thinking about that, but I like the setup.
Yeah, we have this question. I do think that this question, at least for youth, doesn't feel,
Yeah.
I don't know. So maybe like, I think this question is meant to get to some of that, but even for adults, I don't think it's clear that we're asking like in moments where we need to keep someone accountable, like how do we go about doing that? And what is a norm that can help remind us of that, right? So I think
I like that a lot. Yeah.
thinking about the reframing of that question specifically. Overall, the time is like 15 minutes for like just chatting about the things that are important to name, 20 minutes for small groups, and then 25 minutes for consensus building. I think now that we have, and I did I'll put you and Lucia there. Need to add Lucia's face here. But I think this one has switched. I don't know. But I thought I definitely want to see you do it again, Kira. I liked it. And then I feel like Lucia's really good in this session too. I don't know if you've had a formal role, but I always feel like you step in and you are, you know, helping with the creation of norms that people shout. I don't know how y'all have all those Zoom updates. Like mine doesn't do anything.
Oh. You just need to.
I don't know if there's a way to update it. I don't know if I want them, but
Don't know if I recommend.
after that we have a break and then we'll start nuestra jornada. I've started putting Tanya in a few more places, which I haven't actually shared with her because she's been out, but um, I think she's ready, and just this being one of the main things related to her CELI like commitment and things like that, I'm excited to kind of see her step in and try out some of the sessions while adding some of the observations and recommendations she's made. So this one was like, it felt like a good um space for her to step in with me, and that looks like it has before. The one thing I've been thinking about is I know last year, I think the way we shared out and we were able to get through with everybody, not on the same day, we spread it out, was we asked everyone to share one milestone from the past and then the one they were working towards. I'm just thinking about time, like we do have more time now, but um we're also part of the share out. So in the end, there's like 30 people, you know? So I'm recommending that, you know, we mainly talk about two events, one from the past and then the one for the future.
What? That's so funny. Did y'all talk about this before? Or you want to see I just dropped this
No.
idea. I'm so dead. How much time do we have, Mireya? Can you remind me? Because you
Yeah.
just right?
So we have a 75-minute session for day one, and then I think we might just have like 30 minutes here for day two since we're moving things back.
Yeah.
And if there's time, then we have like a brief reflection, but it just, how much we kind of reflect on it depends on that. I think that sticking to just two events they talk about feels like we might be able to finish up on Wednesday, and then be able to just like debrief, getting that chance to hear from everybody and what they notice and things like that.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Cool. Um, we are still only doing two surveys, is that right? Cool. So we have some announcements. I did add that every day they'll be dropping off their name tag. So yeah, and if you need to add anything else, Brian, jump in there. Any thoughts on day one? Yay.
I'm excited for the morning. I really like the pivots there with the focus
Yeah.
on flex.
Yeah. I'm thinking like for the future of like, how do we make those like 2 hours for every retreat of just like getting to know people, you know? This is gonna wake them up. We just gotta get them to start talking, because I do think youth, it takes them a little longer to warm up to people. For day two, we continue leadership maps, we do circle of truth. Is that the name of it? That is the name of it, yeah. We do the aquí de allá, and then we have to brainstorm a little bit about the wellness activity, but we end with la cultura cura. Um, so we have the same things for each day, our norms. Sometimes I do think about like when we have offerings and the norms, just thinking about how do we make it feel different because, and I think we should separate. I think sometimes we do them back to back. Maybe like we do the offerings before the agenda, right? Of like, because of that, we want to ground us in these things. And then we look at the agenda to kind of uplift why we have those offerings. And then we do the norms. That way it doesn't feel too repetitive. The presentations are in the manual at the very top of each day. But that's just one observation of like I've been thinking about after, especially statewide, since it was 4 days in a row. Well, 3 days where we did it back to back. Um, how has that felt for y'all and what do we think about it?
Yeah. Go ahead, Lucia.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think I agree with like spreading them out. And I think just thinking of youth, like especially for them, just like being able to retain for offerings and like norms, it sounds
Yeah,
like a lot.
that's true. I mean, I also like, I think for day one, I really like it for everybody. But even I wonder if we can just, instead of having two, like we also use the norms that people come up with to like connect to the offerings we're making instead of just I think it feels like a lot sometimes on my end. And I'm wondering if we just like lean on the norms and we get to highlight and then they get to highlight and it becomes more interactive. Because I think that's the other piece of if it's just like reading out offerings and reading out norms, it doesn't feel like we're doing something with them, you know?
I agree. Yeah. I think it's partially I wonder if it's our framing, like how do we reframe these offerings or how do we make sure that we're framing them in a way that is that feels different from the norms. What I like about the offerings, and this is what's in my message in the chat. What I like about the offerings is that it allows us to essentially share with them like how what we are observing as the facilitators, right, as the folks who are coaching them through this experience. So it gives us an opportunity to call attention to some of the pieces
Mm.
that we either want to amplify or highlight, whatever it may be. So I do wonder for youth if maybe it's a language of challenge, like what is the challenge that we have for them that day? How do we want them to engage with because that's how I see it different from the norms. I think the offerings are how do we want you to engage? How do we want you to show up today because of what we've observed as your facilitators versus the norms are how do we show up for each other and how are we creating a space where we're learning and co-learning more importantly. So I do wonder if there's maybe a different approach to it and it's more of a challenge that we have or yeah, we can still use the term offering, right? But that's how I'm thinking about them differently.
Yeah. I think you using the word like challenge feels like it helps me like differentiate better. Um, but I do think maybe just sticking to two things would be a good move. And then for community norms, like finding different ways, one day it might just be them self-reflecting and picking one. Another day might be in a small group, like talk about it. Just like finding ways to make this interactive and them like truly reflecting on what is standing out, what do you want to practice more of, and things like that.
Yeah, just a thought, because you saying that, which is how we engage with the norms, that could be a good closing activity. Like, which norm did you really do well in today? Which norm do you want to work on tomorrow? I wonder how we create that more of a practice with reflection, but just wanted to share that because I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. It doesn't just have to be in the day, like at the start. Obviously, we do want to kind of start with that, but bringing them in at different times would be good at the end of the day, for example. So we continue nuestra jornada in the morning. Then we do Circle of Truth, which we've done before. We're switching it up. I think Brian and I, we've done it for Alamance statewide. I was changing some, so I ended up putting Tanya and Lucia here. I think one of them was already on there, but just to make sure that Tanya was not by herself, I also added Lucia. And it feels good to kind of switch off between categories. We do only have 30 minutes for this. This could be we could have a long conversation on it, but it's supposed to be kind of like a little warm up for the sessions for the rest of the day. So just thinking about how we move into that, and the reflecting is more of like, what feelings do you have? Anything that just like stood out to you? We have a break and then we move into de aquí y de allá. This has pretty much stayed the same. Let me bring up the lesson plan. Some quick things that Tanya offered from her observations is we do introduce like what is positive racial ethnic identity, and I think we had a question of like, what has your experience been like developing your racial ethnic identity? But it can feel really broad, and so we kind of switched that question up to say, think of a time you felt your racial and or ethnic identity was positively or negatively represented. How did that make you feel? And so just making room for like various experiences and naming them. Like there could be positive ones, there could be negative ones. What has been your experience? Name one example. And I think that can help us have more like be more concrete about the examples and reflecting on it as a group. Then when we lead, we use some of those conversations, right, to think about, okay, as we think about these examples, and especially for highlighting the positive ones and based on what people say about the positive ones, connecting them to here, you're naming what it feels like to have those positive experiences. And here are some of the outcomes that has on people, on students. And with that context, Tanya made a really good suggestions of like making the concrete connection that that's what we're doing at Latinx Ed. We are working to create experiences where our identities are positively represented, so that these outcomes is what we hope to create for them too, and for them to take with them into the spaces they're in. Which I think, and that's why I put in the 3 L's here of like making those connections to our work, to our why, and to the why of the fellowship. And so that sets us up for the terminology piece of this section. And I kept the Jelly Bean video for youth. So we will be having, I think it's 2 minutes or less, I can't remember. But just this kind of is a really nice visual for them to get understand the differences between the ethnicity, nationality, and race. And here they're listed again, but just to talk over them. One of the other reminders that Tanya offered is to, I think we say like race is a social construct, like really explaining what that means, that it's not biological. And she just shared from her own experience that she didn't learn that until later on. So especially thinking about youth, really ensuring that they understand that it's not a biological thing. It is made up, and that's what we mean by a social construct. I haven't thought about like the eugenics piece here, but I think Brian, you and I are on this one, just talking about how we make sure that we can explain this in a way where they walk away feeling like they understand the concepts. And there's a quote that helps us understand like why we're talking about language and how language is important in the ways that we see ourselves and talk about ourselves. But ultimately, in the past, we would go over these terms. They're there, especially for when we like share this presentation, but we are not talking about these terms as a whole group because they're going to be seeing those terms in the timeline. And so they will be going to the timeline to kind of get exposed to the different terms that have been used or are being used, to learn about them and some of the context behind them. During that timeline, they get to do some observations. But yeah, Brian, you said.
I guess like we haven't talked about it. Like, does it make sense? Is it connecting with folks?
I think from having observed it, because I don't think I saw this at Alamance with wide. My observation is that the thread as to why eugenics was even being talked about in this session was missing. Like, why does this matter that we're having this conversation? And I do wonder, Lucia, if it's connected to what you're naming, right? Like giving more examples and connecting it to how it can show up or how it has showed up within the Latino community. But yeah, that was the thread that was missing for me.
Yeah, I think it just feels like such a big like word and like just concept. I think
Mhm.
we can give the definition, but I think naming like the examples and like anti-blackness and like even just I think the concrete things of like when people make comments about features or about someone's baby or like, I think like those concrete things that people can think about their family gatherings and be like, oh, yeah, people around me have said those things. I do think it's good to keep it, but yeah, I think bringing it a bit more like home with examples.
I I also wonder, I think the reason we added this here is because we were looking at the timeline. So I wonder if it's part of the timeline. And then when we come back,
Mm.
that's when we talk about it more intentionally, right? Because this was added after when we first were looking over the session for Alamance, we added, and I had not used that term, or I don't know if I've heard of it, so it was a new term for me. So okay. So if that sounds good, after hearing y'all, I think, and especially with the change we did with the other terms, maybe adding it to the timeline.
Isn't it like adding the definition to the timeline?
Yeah. And the timeline includes definitions, but even because especially like seeing where this falls in the timeline, I think that would be really
Mhm.
powerful too, because we are already including some of that here.
So if we do that, are we and like removing it from the slide?
Yeah.
Are we do we not bring it up if no one brings it up? Or do we
No, we would want to be intentional about bringing, I guess, like in the reflection as a group, think, and Brian, you and I can connect on like what are the things that we really want to uplift from that timeline as we talk
yeah.
about, we give room for them to reflect on what it was like and their observations, but what are some of the things we want to bring up in the conversation too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So so when we come back, we'll have like a reflection with the group, and we end with the quote like ni de aquí ni de allá to somos de aquí, somos de allá. Um, yes. The times that we have here is we have like it's kind of 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes for the intros, 20 minutes for them to go through the timeline, 30-minute reflection, and then a brief wrap up. And then we go to lunch. Any thoughts here?
I really
Yeah.
like the changes with the
Yeah.
question. Yeah, those shifts. I'm excited to see it.
Same. I think, yeah, I'm looking forward to. It feels like we added a couple things, but it feels like we simplified it at the same time, you know? After lunch, we do have the period of we do have that period, and we actually, like, after moving certain things around, we end up with an hour. I think we were considering going to the Zen garden, but there's like questions about where is it and things like that. So I haven't identified a specific activity during this time. Okay, because I really want to use that kitchen now. Maybe we make a dessert. I don't know. I want to like
Yeah.
do something that is like playful, but still feels like unstructured in some ways too, you know, like it's not like we're talking about heavy things, but it allows for fun topics to come up. Flan
Actually,
takes a while to set, no? So I don't know. We should be able to eat it
We should wait, at what time is this?
after
This
lunch.
is great. Yeah, I mean, like, it'll definitely be done before the day is up. Like we could do that, and then the creme brulee I think is easier to like split into like little cups for people to take home. We just need the time to prepare it all together, and then we could send like Lisa or Tanya to go like make sure it doesn't overcook or overbake. And it's oh, is it even close by, or is it in like the other building?
it's in that building. It's on that second floor. It's down the hallway, more importantly.
Oh wait, oh then yeah, there's literally no issue here. People are just gonna see all their work, and then they don't have to be patient because they're gonna be in a workshop or two.
I think there's something here with cooking. I don't know what it is. To your point, flan feels, I love me some flan now. It does feel a little wild.
I said
But
no, I did it. Yeah.
you said you did it right in 30 minutes. Am I making that up?
Mm-hmm. 30
Yeah.
minutes all together, and then we waited like 2 hours at the end. Yeah. So we did it with all those like with the middle schoolers. I think high schoolers can handle it. That, and I can just have one prep the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not mad, but here's what I was seeing.
Mhm.
At statewide, when we were talking about La Cultura Cura, one of the things that a lot of folks talked about was food. Yes, I see, Lucia. Like that is the thread, right? Like this wellness as a way to also connect back to some of the healing practices. And there's a lot that you can talk about with food and cooking. So, okay, Brian, this you, baby.
Uh, yeah,
I
I will say.
personally,
What's up?
Brian, I don't want to say, I'm not saying no. I know you're really excited about the flan. I personally think everybody should be able to do their little, I'm thinking I've done a flan before and there's different ways to do it,
Hmm.
but everything goes into like a big pan. So like just a random example. I did fresas con crema with my middle schoolers. Everybody cut their own fresas. Everyone had their own little bowl, and then everybody had their end product. So like everybody gets to have that. I'm thinking of like how can we do that, and then you enjoy it and you just talk or something. So that's what's coming up for me of like everyone can get to walk away with their little piece of whatever they make.
Aw.
Just the like didactic part that like not everybody's just like staring, but they all have
Yeah.
like a job.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is the part that I still have to like think through. Because like I imagine if it was free time, you know, some people would not want to be in a kitchen at all. Then I would have like a smaller group. Um, but yeah, I'll try to have a lesson plan by tomorrow. If it's not here by tomorrow, like we rethink some things.
Yeah. Fresco crema is easy, fun, good. I don't know if we have lactose intolerant friends though, so just
We
one
do,
thing to be mindful of.
actually.
Oh well, flan is
I'll just
gonna
get
be
fresas then. Oh,
Yeah, like it might have to be a dessert that's appropriate for everyone.
yeah.
well. I'm
No peanuts, no
excited.
peanuts, y'all.
No. Oh, I don't know if you knew, Lucia, but Carrie Academy's kitchen actually is a zero peanut kitchen.
Fire. Love to hear it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Once you have identified the item,
The learning objectives.
let us know. And if you have a title, if not, Kira can help us make
Oh
it.
my gosh, please.
Got you.
So after this, so this is right after lunch. I feel like this is gonna be really nice to be able to, and I love the connection you made there, Kira, because every time we like, what do you think about La Cultura Cura? Everyone is like food. And it's kind of cute and funny because I don't think that was never really where my brain would go when I learned about community cultural wealth. Um, so it's kind of funny and I like that. After that, we will get a break and then we go into La Cultura Cura. So this session, originally we would start off with who am I? And I had just been thinking about like, does that feel like the right way to open up this session for our youth? And so this is where my proposal ended. I'm still finalizing some of the questions, but the logistics of it is mainly around starting with this video that's called Your Identity is Your Superpower. Have y'all seen this video from America Ferrera? Show of hands.
Yes, yes.
So she talks basically she talks about like her experience being an actor and then coming across with directors that wanted her to sound like Mexican or Hispanic, you know, and then feeling like she had to assimilate in order to make it into this career. So she talks a lot about like assimilation and just like what people see us like and how she didn't fit in and all of that stuff. And she realized like she needed to really be authentically herself and find who she was to own her identity and that was her superpower. It's really short, but it touches on a lot of great things that I think helps us start the conversation because when Tanya is like asking us, what does like La Cultura Cura mean to us? What I have been really gaining from my experience and the conversations we've been having in fellowship is sometimes being in these predominantly white spaces make us question like ourselves. So you experience some of the what is the syndrome word? Why did it just slip my mind? Oh, imposter
Imposter
syndrome.
syndrome.
And or
Yeah.
people experience like feeling like they have to show up differently from their home life or their cultural roots. And La Cultura Cura to me has meant like not allowing those messages to make you feel like you have to change who you are. And coming back to your identity and your roots is where you will really find like the power that you have within you. And so that's my understanding and how I've seen that. And so I think having conversations about this at the start of this session would be really good. So we watched the video, which is like 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm still thinking about like, what are the questions we ask here, but really trying to think about, have you experienced something? Have you experienced it yourself or seen this happen in other spaces. So making the connections to their lives and their communities, and what that experience has been like for them. This is actually the same quote that came from the Who Am I activity. I think it was added by Elaine, but I think it connects to the same conversation of our lived experiences shape our identities, and it's important to recognize these are our strengths and not a weakness. And that's why we talk about that how we view ourselves or how other people view us impact how other people view us, or how people talk about us also impact how we view us and how we talk about ourselves. And naming that these are mindsets or lenses from which people you can use to kind of approach conversations. And when we kind of share and introduce these concepts, just having another like moment of, okay, I don't know, I'm not sure about that, but we had this in the lesson plan. We haven't used it because I think we've kind of jumped into some of these sessions, but is this asset-based thinking a new approach for you? What challenge might you face when shifting from a deficit to an asset approach? How can we overcome those barriers? So really sitting with the concepts, and giving room for them to just process and talk about it with each other, I think would be a good way to make some processing time for them. And that's when we can jump into, okay, now that we kind of have these approaches, here is a really great way to uplift our community's wealth, and really operate from the asset-based lens, which is community cultural wealth model. We are still just introducing it, highlighting who has written about this, because we will be having small groups. I will update this. I think we need to like come up with our own definition, still uplift where the frame La Cultura comes from, but making our own definition out of it will be important to strengthen this session. And so we come back, we don't come back. So making the connection from community cultural wealth to the name of the session. And this is when we'll go into small groups and talk about them, allow them to ask questions, to uplift different examples that come up for them. Let me scroll down to here. And we have some discussion questions that the small groups can have, like which one is impacting you, or uplifting you the most, and how can we think about challenging those narratives that are deficit by using these different forms of wealth. I made groups for this, and I did this one by age because I do think that, like, especially thinking about our college students, or I mean, really anybody, I think some of the experiences we have can really vary based on how old we are in the spaces we're in. So this is already in order from college to our younger folks. So Brian, it just ended up this way. We can, if you want a certain group, like we can switch images, but this is college. These are seniors or people that just graduated. And then we have our younger people here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think with the combos about assimilation and imposter syndrome, I'm wondering if we could add a slide after the asset-based, deficit-based, maybe like defining it. Because we had we talked about this yesterday of just like, I think in this age group, it's kind of in many ways where I know for me, like that adolescence is kind of like the awakening part to some of these things of like, what is that called when people like treat me this way or do that thing? So I think maybe defining it could be helpful for like the following parent share, or for making connections of just like concretely, like what is deficit? And like an example of that can be, when you feel the pressure to assimilate, to be accepted, etc.
Yeah, I'll definitely think where it could fall in there. And I think that's a good thing to make sure we do. Me and Dr. Nathan. So, I put like 25 minutes for the small group convos, and then a moment to come back as a group. And wait, let me make sure that's right. Yeah. So when we come back from the group, I don't think there's time for a whole group discussion, but we could just have maybe a couple people sharing. I think small groups is really important for this session. So those like really quality conversations will help them process a lot of the info that is discussed before the small groups. But we do end with tying it all together with en Lakesh like we've done before. Yeah. So that's it for this day. We've had this. I've never known where to put it. I have it here at the end for that day. But I still don't know where to make room for it. I don't think it's just for a specific session. So I'm leaving it there, open to y'all suggestions. And or if we still want to have it somewhere.
I think it is a good, like, I think it's all about how we make connections, but I do think it's a good slide to kind of wrap everything up from that day, like starting with like, you know, your journey, like identity labels, like wealth, just like glancing at it, I do think it's like good. I think it's just about like making connections to like in this session we talked about this, and like, you know, the main lesson is no label is perfect, but we use Latinidad as a tool, like blah blah blah. So I think whoever does that, we can figure out how to talk through it. But I do think it's good if we use it to just make connections to wrap up the day.
Yeah, I like that too. I had been thinking like that could be a good way to anchor ourselves each day, or at least this day, because I feel like this is the day where there's a lot of new language, maybe. It probably is
Yes.
the experiences they have will all connect to it, but it's giving language to those experiences. And so it does feel like this day needs some anchoring, some grounding at the end that kind of makes the
Yes.
connection of from starting with the circle of truth to ending that last session.
Yes.
There is a
Um,
survey this last day. So being mindful of that too is important because we want to make sure they have time for that.
do y'all have any kind of other comments about day 2, or can I go on to day 3? Okay. Cool. Thank you, Mireya. So a lot of this has stayed the same. I do need to update this, like, because the times have been changing, as we mentioned. I didn't know if we were gonna do this again. It sounds like we are, so I'll unhide this and we just gotta plug in the names again for people. And here is where the norms will begin from the day before and the offerings. So the first big session is this one, and we tweaked this a little bit for the youth. So I'll talk through it through the lesson plan, and then I'll show you the slides. And thank you, Kiara, for what you proposed. I just kind of built off of it. But basically, we're keeping the beginning part of like the fish and the lake explanation. We thought it was like still like critical to introduce like systems change versus like direct service, and just like, are we helping the fish or are we improving the lake? So we are continuing with that. What really changes here is talking about civic engagement. So after we talk about the fish in the lake, let me actually go to the slides. So we talk about fish in the lake. We wrap up with like the definition and highlighting. This is all about like defining problems in a way that helps us design solutions that really get to the root cause of things. So then I found this video, it's like 2 minutes, introducing like what is civic engagement, and y'all can watch it and let me know if it's good. It's pretty kind of good and basic in the sense of like, it's like, oh, like there are these problems in the world, like hunger, poverty, like who is responsible for solving them? And then it talks about, is it businesses, is it government? And then where do individuals come in? And that's where civic engagement comes in. And then it gives examples like it can be volunteering, it can be advocating, it could be joining a group that's working on blank issue. So I thought it was a good overview. Then afterwards, after the video, we unpack a little bit. So we have the definition in one of the slides of like civic engagement is the process of working to improve a community's quality of life by addressing public issues through political and non-political action. And in the video, there's this quote that like I want to like name and highlight that's like about change happening when ordinary people choose to show up with compassion and courage. And here are some other thoughts that you had drafted, Kiara, that is like a good way to kind of talk through and around like civic engagement being a tool that helps us drive the system level change. So, right, if we want to clean up the lake, civic engagement can be the way that we are a part of cleaning up the lake. And then talking about like the individual power and choice and the collective power and choice, and mentioning how youth have been critical in civic engagement and in creating change. So that's kind of like priming them a little bit on that. And we have the ripple slide here when we're making the connection of like civic engagement being a tool for cleaning up the lake, how you can look at civic engagement, right, as like you're a drop in the ocean, but right, like your drop is creating these ripples of impact and of change. So introducing this metaphor here. Then I have a parent share after we've discussed the definition. What examples of civic engagement have you observed and or been involved in your community? So for this, we have, we have 8 minutes. So they are able to talk about this in a pair, and then 3 minutes to kind of just like ask for a few people to share out. Kind of getting to hear like what have people seen and what are they already a part of, because we know so many of them are already so active and like doing amazing things. And so the next part of this is them exploring different student-led movements. So they're gonna have 35 minutes and they're gonna be divided into 4 groups, and each group is going to research one of these student-led movements. And their task is to answer these 4 questions or try to find answers to these after the 35 minutes. So how did the movement start? What strategies did they use to gain attention and support? What systems level change did they achieve, if any? And do similar movements already exist in your community? If not, how can your community begin to gather and organize? So they have 35 minutes for this. We can, I don't know what y'all think about this. We can randomize again. We could use the same group, one of the same groups as before. I don't really have like a preference on that. And then afterwards, we have basically the same questions and just like debriefing. I think they have 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes to finish the discussion. And then at the end, they have 5 minutes for self-reflection. And kind of encouraging them like to use their notebook. So what did you learn from these movements? How can you apply these lessons to your own advocacy? So this is a little bit of a silent reflection moment. And then to close out, we bring the murmuration of birds imagery, kind of to tie in the connection of like, we're talking about civic engagement being like you know, it is an individual action or choice, right? But then if we're all aligned and coordinated, how can we be that movement that is going towards the same direction? So that is this new remixed session. I'll pause for thoughts. I'll check the chat.
I do remember we briefly talked about you getting a little more time for this session because of the edit we were making on the start time, but just revisiting that will be important, Lucia.
I think I added that 30, 40,
Because in this session you say
Oh,
35 minutes, but then on the time it says 20. That's why I was like, wait, is
oh,
it
you're
20
right.
minutes? I
So are you
honestly, I think like if this needs to be a shorter time, I think it's fine because it's gonna be 6 people per group, so they need to divide up the questions, you know? Um, and so they're not all gonna be looking for everything together, but then they can split it up.
oh,
For the group discussion, are y'all still imagining them presenting, like they're researching this in their small groups and then they're going to present to the full group, and then the group discussion is going to be the groups? I guess I got lost in that flow. Is it still presenting, or are they just
yeah,
small groups?
yeah. I'm like looking at the time and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm counting with an hour and a half and it's an hour 15. So this is 30, 50. And yeah, I need to cut it down by 10 minutes. Whoops. All right,
I don't know if
20.
that should say group discussion. That might be like group presentations.
Yeah, I think that would help. That was what tripped me up.
Yes.
Can I, one question, curiosity, is if we're already, the do similar movements already exist in your community, if not, how can you create that fourth question? To me connects to the parent share. Is the parent share feeling
Oh.
critical, important? Like, I wonder if that's the time that can be kind of cut from this session and just really focusing on the group discussion.
Yeah, I agree that they're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel good about if we take away the parent share, like that question is getting to that.
Mhm.
What do y'all think?
I'm thinking about like, when do we want them to talk about it, right? Do we want them to talk about it before so that they can make that connection to their lives and it doesn't feel like an abstract thing?
Mhm.
Or do we want them to look at the movement and then be like, oh, wait, I feel like I can see how that's happening in my community? Like,
Where does
that's,
it click?
yeah, where does it click the best? And how does that prime them for what's coming next? Or kind of like put it all together?
My a part of me is like the video, like, and y'all can watch it and maybe like watching it can give you a little bit more like context, but the video gives examples, as I mentioned, like volunteering, advocacy, join a group, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like if we draw out those examples, como que name them before the parents share, my pause would be about keeping it in the large group would be that like they might feel like, oh wow, like these are incredible movements. Like they might, I don't know if they might like maybe downplay like, well, my parents like are in this group at church and like they like do these things. I don't know if they would like maybe not name things because these movements might feel like so big and so impactful that they can't think of something. And like the video does have some examples. So if we were to like name them again and say, go think about it.
Mhm.
The other part of that is that there is the closing reflection. So I wonder like if in the parent share, they think about something, maybe I could change the question or add a question or something like that, where they revisit that like on their own and maybe they've thought of something that they didn't think before, like counted as civic engagement from like their community or their family. Y'all are blank face.
I'm
No
like,
thoughts.
yeah, I see what y'all are saying. I think what I'm like what I'm trying to think about is like how does that change the time? I'm like the timing is still, it just changes
Mhm.
where we're having the conversation, but we're still not cutting out time. Um
Yes.
so I wonder if it's a matter, to your point, Lucia, I do think there's helpful conversation that can happen before they are then presented with these grand movements that have caused impact. So I'm not mad at keeping that question. I'm wondering then if we keep it to 3 questions that they're exploring, does that help condense time? Because now it's just 3 questions. So cut it from the group discussion
I
and
think so.
right?
The
Yeah, so that
Yeah,
way it's more focused. Because that makes sense to keep it at the front end.
I do think that's good. Like they're presenting about the movement, so they're presenting about the movement. Yeah, that works. Okay. Okay. So I'll look at the times again to make sure it adds up. We have a break, and then for Nuestra Liberación, it is basically the same. The only thing that has changed is like from a comment from Tanya, like thinking about making a more explicit connection to like the conditions of the lake, like systemic oppression, like why do we have to freedom dream? What makes us freedom dream? And I think we didn't name it explicitly in the past, like it's been kind of like a given. So adding it here as like freedom dreaming has originated, and we've been kind of forced to do that to be free because of that. So just naming that explicitly. Other than that, it is pretty much the same. Yeah, so everything is very much the same. They have the 30 minutes to work on the Jamboard. The only thing that's changed is we were able to add time here. Before, remember, we were like at an hour, we're back to like an hour 15. So what this the only thing that this shifts is that when we talk about the Yo Soy project, we have time to show examples, which I think is like critical with youth, especially because we are opening up. And I know that y'all last year, like they were people that did drawings and stuff, but I think, yeah, showing examples will be critical for them and building in that time. Because I noticed with statewide, like the working time that they had, a lot of it was them looking at examples. So by showing them examples now, like their working time can maybe be a little bit more of them getting into their own. So yeah, we have I think 20 minutes for this. 20 minutes to introduce it and share examples.
So, Lucia, you only have an hour because we've adjusted the time to start at 9:15. I think you were
Okay.
adding 15 minutes. I thought it was the previous session, but I think this is where you were adding 15 minutes. And we just adjusted 15 minutes.
All right. Well, we'll explain the project and maybe show one example, and then they probably will have to, if they want to look at examples on their own, like during the working time. So never mind what I said. But we have this slide somewhere else, but I brought it back here. And I think the like closing comment on like the freedom dreaming and then Yo Soy project is this piece about like through our Yo Soy projects, right? Like art and expression help us make justice irresistible, right? So when thinking about your Yo Soy project, like how can you make your vision or your expression like irresistible? Like everybody would want to be a part of it, and just that. So yeah, we get to lunch. I don't know much about this, Mireya. I don't know if you want to say something about this.
I just saw it in a comment.
Yo nunca tuve problemas con ese veterinario.
Oh, wait, what is in the comment?
I saw in a comment,
The
we talked about it.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mi Familia Vota is a national voter registration organization for Latina folks, and they have recently moved into North Carolina. Axel Herrera, who we all must know by now, him and his big head, joined that organization, and are looking for opportunities to register folks to vote. And so I think I remember who asked about it. I know it was y'all, but so basically during lunch, after we're talking about civic engagement and stuff, people are exiting, and then once they get to the outside, there's going to be 3 tables set up with 3 different folks to talk about voter registration as well as register folks to vote. Out of the 24 fellows, we have about like 7 that are almost voting age, another chunk that's like a little bit younger, and then the youngest is like 6. But they're interested in talking to all of them. And so one table would be for the people who can vote, another table for people who are just under 18, and then a third table for folks who are undocumented. And so these tables are going to be ran by someone who is a college student at NC State, someone who has already graduated college, and then just like a senora who wanted to be involved. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's like, a win-win
And
for us.
Ryan, I think, where are they gonna set up? In the cafeteria?
Oh, I just told them outside, like in the courtyard. I wanted it to feel like mock canvassing, to where
Yeah.
like, oh, if you were to approach this outside, this is what it would look like.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. And
It might be hot, so if they just want to be inside, I wonder, like,
you
if
want to offer that?
inside, are the kids more likely to just like walk over right after they finish lunch? I think it's
Maybe.
whatever we want, but we definitely want to encourage them to go to the tables.
Yeah,
Or
We'll give them
even
this pass.
or even if like once they all get their food, maybe they can come in the cafeteria and like shout themselves out a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'm actually I checked the weather either earlier this week, and there's actually potentially like scattered thunderstorms.
Yeah, you did show.
Yeah, and it's still looking like that. I don't know if y'all saw behind me, but like, oh, it stopped. But there was just like a huge storm that came down. But I'll tell them they can move inside.
Okay. Thank you for that, Brian. That's really cool. Honestly, I wish we had that like in the other ones.
And have them drive all the way out there.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, there's different
Why
words
not?
and spaces that I'm sure do some of this.
Oh yeah, I literally just saw Siembra, and I'm like, oh, they would have been nice too.
Yeah. But yeah, for the rest of the day, they have just a project working time. And let's see, for like an hour. And then we have the Coastal Credit Union session. I have a slide for them here, Kiara. I don't know if there is like a objective here that we want to add about it. I don't know much about it. And then I have a slide for potentially the people to introduce themselves. And but that's it. I don't know if they'll have slides that they can just like drop here also. But yeah.
I like the
I'll collect that information, Lucia, and we'll update it. Thank you for flagging this.
Okay.
I like the
And
little
then-
coin you have on the title slide.
I was like, money. Okay, so that's day 3. And then day 4, it stays pretty simple, pretty the same as before. So, the offerings, I'm like, why is this here?
Sorry, I don't know if we have time for that anymore because I'm moving things back.
It's so sad. We were so excited that we had time to play with. Qué sad.
Sorry.
Okay, so no Yo Soy practice time. Nuestro compromiso fall commitment. I have all the same slides that y'all have had before. So I don't know if anything y'all want to change for the youth. But I think the questions were pretty like good. I don't know if they need to change. So yeah, these slides stayed the same. I think probably the talking points here, since they are the like youth, right? Of just like the reverse kind of explanation of like you're gonna have access to folks of all ages, but like maybe like them knowing like there are those policies of mindfulness with the age gaps. The format might change. Okay, let me know if you want me to like shift that or if you want to shift that, Kiara. But then yeah, we have altar building. We're gonna do it all together after a break, which will be special. I know it can, I don't know if we feel good about like doing this without like a timer. It feels a little bit, it might feel a little bit yikes to like have a timer. But I know also when we did it large group with like elements, it took like an hour and a half. We have allotted an hour and 15. So just a thought, if we do want to have some sort of, does anyone have like the sand things? I feel like that's a gentle way to calculate time without having an alarm like, "Brr, brr, brr, brr."
That's what I meant by like an unconscious timer.
We might
Um,
we might actually have an hour and a half because I had put some time for practice, but now it's only 15 minutes and I don't think that's enough to practice.
Bueno, pues, so never mind, we'll see. But if anyone has that like sand time, I think that could be cool. I kept this here, it's hidden. I don't think there will be time, right, for practice or for like whatever. So lunch, group photo, paper bag, and then just like presentations. We have 2 hours. We have an hour and 45 actually. And or maybe who knows if that'll change. And then we have the closeout, the fireplace, fire pit, an hour and 15. Do y'all think that might be like too much time for
Yeah,
the fire
So
pit?
I went fine with the time on Friday because we definitely need more time at the end than we think because of the gifts, the survey, and we are also doing an affirmation circle. I don't know if
yeah.
we want to do 2 minutes per person, but we've included staff in that when we did it last year. So that's 30 people times 2. That's at least 1 hour if,
Mhm.
you know. So that's why and then I was like, I was hoping maybe our youth's presentations are shorter than our adults. Our adults just had a lot to say, I guess, but maybe, I guess, how can we do a better job of keeping them at 2 minutes or just like really asking them to be mindful of the time? I do feel like some of the youths might go faster than our adults, though.
Yeah. Do y'all remember last year how long the presentations took? I'm trying to remember. I feel like they were done within the time frame. Let me go back and
I
pull
feel
up.
like they were because we weren't even rushing to go back to the room at the end. I remember we were all just like chilling, walking.
wait, are you asking how long the Yo Soy presentations were or affirmations?
The presentations.
Oh,
Let me.
I felt like they were on time. No one had anything especially long, and then people who did artwork like really sped up the process. And then we didn't rush to the room because we did the affirmation circle there. And then we're like we're out. This is where we're saying bye.
Yeah, last year we had this, right, 12:30 until 2. So an hour and a half. And it was the largest group that we had was also 24. That was carry 2, right? They had, weren't there 24 people there?
I don't remember. It sounds
20
Or
something.
20, I feel like 20 something because someone had to move. People had to shift because of timing.
Yeah, it was
but
not like
we also had absent people because I think at least 2 that were absent.
Oh,
That's-
yeah.
that's true.
Uh-huh.
I
And
mean,
we
we
had
can
like,
probably
oh, yeah.
we can just stay flexible, like the 2-hour chunk of Jo Soy, like hour and 15. I think,
Mhm.
it'll bend depending on what
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Because
think,
honestly, yeah.
go ahead, Brian.
No, say it. I'm still cooking.
I also think we just need to be mindful of the order in which we do things. Like, I don't think they should get their box until after they do their survey. Like if you
Okay.
want to stay longer to look at your box while you're here, you're welcome to. But if you're really trying to go, you need to do your survey first.
I totally agree. Um, but anyway, I feel like I really liked how we, for statewide, had Gus's for our circles and stuff and did presentations there. And now I feel like I missed the idea of Gus's at least for the affirmation circle. But I don't know.
What do you mean? What did we do in Casas?
It just felt like a time saver that we had Gus's. And that's where we did our discussion time and yeah. But anyway, I do want to take it back. I think it'll work out. I don't think we stayed really extra
Yeah.
that much at all.
And I
Also, we
think
can get,
I put an hour 40. We did have 2 hours at first, but I was like 24 people times 4 minutes. It's like 96 minutes. So I was like, some people will be shorter. So I just stuck to just like around that time frame, but that's already giving everyone 4 minutes in total, maybe thinking about getting on there, I don't know, clapping, I don't know, the little in between transitions between people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down to stay flexible and just lean into truth that day. I think we'll be fine.
And if anything, we could do like an hour, I mean, a minute and a half per person for the affirmation circle.
Get it down. A minute.
No, at this point, playing with the time is just for fun.
yes, they're gonna be guiding it. Because I do remember people fighting like the buzzer. He's like, no. Let me say one more thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then we're done. Then we
That's
can go
it.
home.
There's a survey that needs to be updated there. I don't know any announcements. We just have the graduation, drop off your name tag. Maybe, well, this will be the morning, right? Like the reminder of all the coaching things, mentoring things. But
Yeah.
maybe adding those in the announcements, but that's
Yeah.
it.
I do think that maybe when we go to lunch, like everyone just goes ahead and takes their things. I think that would
Mm.
that would save us time, right? Like we don't have to go back to the classroom for gifts. We don't have to go back to the classroom for, I don't know, whatever it is. Like we just end the day at the auditorium.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a good.
Yeah.
That's all.
Alrighty.
Back
Thanks.
any pieces that we should be mindful of now that we all looked at each
Pero es que
day?
no apareció ahí en la tarde. Okay, your news comes.
Can't think of anything. Yeah, I mean, Tuesday morning we'll likely have some set up.
Ya viene dijo.
You can think of Brian, big picture.
Let's see.
Are y'all going on Monday or you're setting up tomorrow?
Luisa and Brian have Luisa's final is it a graduation ceremony on Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they will not be there. I was thinking about Mireya's out on Monday. Something that would really
That's
only
yeah.
be me, Tanya, you, Lucia, if you're back on Monday, to set up any things. We can figure it out. We can play it by ear. I think it'll be minor things that we need to set up on Monday, on Tuesday, sorry, if we don't. But Brian and I can make sure we have the major things in place when we drop off materials tomorrow. So
Yeah. Can't wait to empty out my car.
yeah,
But
how you fit it all. I'm shocked actually.
the Honda
For
Civic. Incredible.
for dress code again, is it like what day again is it the like Latinx shirt?
We'll
Friday?
keep Friday. Yeah. We'll keep that Friday. Thursday is picture day. So the business casual con sazon for staff, and then comfortable. It's gonna be hot. So wear what you're most comfortable in for Monday and Tuesday.
Mhm. Did y'all feel the AC in the room?
It was cool. It was not hot.
That thank you. Better than last year. I told everyone to pack a hoodie. I already sent the note before you go. But yeah, there's nothing like pictures. Staff have to come in. Luisa recording Yo Soy Poems, which I can show you the ones that we did last year, so you get an idea of like what we got, what we're looking for. We do have to figure out audio. I totally forgot. We've had a hold
Oh.
up with some of the videos because just the audio in certain rooms is like really bad.
Mm.
Uh-huh. I should have looked for the microphone that we had I don't know if it was in the office, but yeah. But no, nothing for like the whole staff to like really worry about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did find a microphone on Amazon that connects to
Ah.
your phone, actually.
Oh
And
my-
it had good reviews. It was like $13 too if we're not able to find the microphone in the office. But that leads me to my next question. Are we meeting tomorrow?
Yes. I
Okay.
have to update that. Well, actually, Lisa, I'm gonna schedule a meeting with you after this and talk about that because you might not be needed.
Okay.
But yeah. And actually now that you say something. Oh, what's up,
I was
Kira?
just gonna say, no, Brian. Brian. I was just gonna say, as you and Luisa talk, if that is a material that y'all are seeing a need for, like a microphone, let me know because that's something that we can get. I can see.
Oh, look, actually, we were thinking it was a need for like the entire staff having microphones, like while
Oh.
we're at like events, but like definitely like not like what we use for the summit or not handheld ones, but just like the Bluetooth clip ones.
Yeah.
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 Whether to capture what we're talking about, like on stage or like with community members.
Yeah. I mean, we could start with a program like one for fellowship team. I do think, especially if y'all find one that's great, that's a great idea to get some for summit.
Yeah,
can test-
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then now that we're actually on comms, but since our attendance is a little like scattered, we actually wanted to talk about the rest of the staff also supporting with comms duties for next week. But I think it's going to be like a recording that we send y'all to watch today, Monday, even like Tuesday morning. That sounds cool. Is anyone opposed? Like this is like Mireya, Kiara, Lucia also recording during like meetings or moments, but just to capture specific things, not entire like, sessions.
Yeah.
Not if that's okay. Okay. Cool, 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 cool. Was there anything you want to add, Lisa? A heart.
No, I mean, well, we're gonna talk about it with Brian, but I'm excited about the
Mhm.
ideas. Like, this is one of us just dancing, and I don't know. I thought it would be like very cute. But also like, yeah, like I definitely want to capture like certain moments and just put like a very like cute song in the background. And yeah, you'll see my ideas. I'll talk about it with Brian more. Excited.
That's really cool. The only other thing that I know we chatted in a thread, but with the bags, the affirmation bags, just thinking of,
Now we're framing it.
yeah.
Yeah, setting it up.
I and especially for when people leave, because I think that's when we've forgotten every time to tell people to take them.
Aww.
And I have just felt really bad knowing that a lot of people I don't know, I haven't looked, but like if people are just like taking an empty bag, like I don't like that feeling. And I know that I like haven't had much time to put notes in people's bags. Like when we did it, I know we did it the first year of the fellowship, it was 15 people. So I made sure that I would check like who doesn't have a comment and like I would add, so especially for our young people, I think adults will be like whatever. But especially for our young people, I think we just need to be intentional about checking bags and adding comments ourselves to those that don't have any comments in their bags. Yeah.
So
We should
bags
like model it for fellows.
we should, yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely part of it. I will add just from the bags that were left over, because I feel that deeply, Mireya. I have them and I think we should mail them off, but no one didn't have comments, or like everyone that left the bag
Aw.
actually had notes in it. I was curious about that. Even people who like Cristo, for example, I didn't expect just because I hadn't seen him really connecting with folks, and yeah, he had notes too. But I
No.
do think that modeling piece is really important. I'm thinking about that last hour that will be there right as we wrap up and do highs and lows. Can we also say 15 minutes to just write some notes for folks? So yeah, thank you for naming that, because I do think part of it is building the practice even internally to make sure that we're writing in those bags. I know, I felt
Right.
so bad. I need to stay ready there.
Oh. Yeah. I wish people would write their initials or their names on it though. Because like when I get one, I'm also shocked, but I'm like, dang, I didn't write any for anybody. But my excuse is the highlight reel. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't do this because I was working on your highlight reels.
No.
Anyway, y'all, my laptop is at 2%. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop off. Let me know if y'all need anything, and Luisa, I'll message you separately.
All right, y'all. Thanks for a great meeting. Nos vemos. We'll be in touch. Cuídense.
Bye, everybody.